Did the CIA discover that human consciousness can exist outside the physical body? According to declassified documents, government researchers concluded that our awareness isn't confined to our brains, but exists in a holographic reality that transcends physical limitations. Their findings weren't the ramblings of fringe theorists, but carefully documented research conducted by military intelligence professionals seeking tactical advantages. What they discovered instead was something far more profound, a potential gateway to understanding the very nature of existence itself. What would drive America's premier intelligence organization to investigate the boundaries of human consciousness? The question itself opens a portal to extraordinary possibilities. When we picture the CIA, we typically envision covert operations, geopolitical intrigue, and national security, not explorations into the metaphysical nature of human awareness. Yet in 1983, this unexpected convergence of intelligence work and consciousness research manifested in a classified document that would remain hidden from public view for decades. U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell, working under CIA auspices, completed a comprehensive analysis of what was known as the Gateway Process, not as a spiritual pursuit, but as a potential tool for military and intelligence applications. The very existence of this document suggests that consciousness itself was viewed as terrain worth mapping for strategic purposes. When finally declassified in 2003, the report revealed research depths that far exceeded conventional scientific understanding of the time, pushing into realms traditionally reserved for mystics and spiritual seekers. The Gateway Process itself represented a fascinating intersection of technology and consciousness exploration. Far from utilizing mystical rituals or ancient practices, the process employed sophisticated acoustic technology designed to create specific brainwave patterns. These sound patterns would generate standing waves in the cerebral ventricles, the fluid-filled cavities within the brain, creating conditions for altered states of consciousness that differed significantly from those achieved through hypnosis or transcendental meditation. What makes McDonnell's analysis particularly striking is his frank acknowledgement of the limitations of conventional analytical frameworks. In a remarkable departure from standard military documentation, he states that understanding the Gateway Process requires not only logic, but a touch of right-brain intuitive insight. This admission speaks volumes about the nature of the territory being explored, one where traditional scientific materialism reaches its explanatory limits. Perhaps most intriguing is McDonnell's recognition that consciousness might not be merely an abstract concept, but a tangible phenomenon with the potential to transcend our conventional understanding of physical limitations. The CIA researchers weren't simply studying unusual mental states. They were investigating the possibility that human awareness could operate beyond the constraints of time and space, a proposition with profound implications for intelligence gathering. The document's existence raises fascinating questions about the CIA's motivations. What would compel an organization dedicated to espionage and national defense to invest resources in consciousness research? The answers suggest possibilities that stretch our understanding of intelligence work. If consciousness could indeed transcend physical barriers, imagine the implications: remote viewing of secure facilities, accessing information across vast distances, perhaps even perceiving events before they occur. These capabilities would transform the very nature of intelligence gathering, rendering physical barriers and conventional security measures potentially obsolete. Yet the Gateway Process research also hints at something deeper, a recognition that our fundamental understanding of reality might be incomplete. The CIA's interest suggests that behind the pragmatic pursuit of tactical advantages lay a more profound recognition that consciousness itself might be the ultimate frontier, one whose exploration could reshape not just intelligence work, but our understanding of human potential and the nature of reality. Imagine your brain as an instrument designed to filter reality rather than perceive it fully. The CIA's Gateway analysis proposed something remarkable: that specific acoustic technologies could recalibrate this instrument, synchronizing brain hemispheres to resonate with what they described as holographic energy matrices that permeate existence. What might we perceive when these filters are temporarily removed? Behind the classified pages of the Gateway Report lies a framework that transforms what might otherwise be dismissed as mystical speculation into rigorous scientific inquiry. Rather than relying on the language of spirituality or esoteric traditions, the analysis constructs a comprehensive model grounded in quantum physics, neuroscience, and information theory, creating a scientific foundation for phenomena typically relegated to the fringes of accepted knowledge. What makes this approach particularly striking is how it challenges the dominant materialist paradigm that has long positioned consciousness as merely a byproduct of brain activity. The Gateway analysis instead presents a reverse proposition: that our physical brain functions primarily as a receiver and interpreter of a more fundamental consciousness that exists beyond material constraints. Coming from military intelligence rather than metaphysical circles, this perspective carried a weight and credibility that similar theories rarely achieve. At the core of this model lies a fascinating neurological mechanism. The document outlines how specific sound frequencies can induce what neuroscientists call hemisphere synchronization, a state where both sides of the brain begin operating in coherent harmony, rather than their typical differentiated functions. This synchronization creates what physicists might recognize as a phase-coherent wave pattern, essentially transforming the brain into a highly sensitive receiver, capable of resonating with electromagnetic fields that normally remain imperceptible. The scientific foundation for this model drew heavily from the pioneering work of Itzhak Bentov, a biomedical engineer whose studies bridged the gap between hard science and consciousness research. Bentov developed sophisticated models demonstrating how quantum mechanics and wave theory could explain consciousness phenomena previously considered supernatural or impossible. His influence on McDonnell's analysis provided crucial credibility, grounding extraordinary claims in established scientific principles. When the brain achieves this synchronized state, something remarkable occurs. Our ordinary consciousness, which typically filters out vast portions of reality to provide us with a manageable perceptual experience, undergoes what the document terms a phase shift. This shift enables awareness to perceive and interact with frequencies and dimensions that lie beyond our conventional sensory range, opening doorways to information that would otherwise remain inaccessible. The implications of this phase shift extend far beyond mere theoretical interest. The CIA researchers recognized that if consciousness could indeed transcend physical limitations through these techniques, it would represent not just a scientific breakthrough, but a revolutionary intelligence capability. They were particularly focused on the phenomenon they labeled space-time transcendence, the ability to perceive information across vast distances or even different time frames without physical presence. Most compelling was the report's insistence on framing these experiences within the language of physics rather than the occult. By describing out-of-body states and expanded consciousness in terms of wave functions, resonance, and quantum field interactions, the analysis stripped away the stigma and skepticism typically associated with such phenomena. This reframing allowed for objective assessment of abilities that, if verified, would transform our understanding of human potential. The CIA's scientific reframing of consciousness opened a door to an even more radical possibility. What if our entire universe isn't what it appears to be? The Gateway document ventures into territory where the solid ground of physics gives way to something far more fluid and interconnected, a reality where the boundaries between observer and observed dissolve, and where consciousness itself may be the fundamental organizing principle of existence rather than merely an emergent property of neural activity. At the heart of the CIA's analysis lies a proposition that sounds more like advanced theoretical physics than an intelligence assessment. Our universe functions as a vast, interconnected hologram. In this model, what we perceive as solid matter, separate objects, and linear time are convenient constructions, not fundamental aspects of reality, but artifacts of our limited perceptual systems. The implications are staggering. If reality is holographic in nature, then separation is an illusion, and information about the whole exists at every point within the system. This holographic model provides an elegant framework for understanding how consciousness might transcend the apparent limitations of physical existence. If every point in the universal hologram contains information about the entirety, then a consciousness that could properly attune itself might access information from anywhere, or anywhen, regardless of conventional spatial or temporal barriers. The Gateway document suggests this isn't merely philosophical speculation, but a description of how reality actually functions at its most fundamental level. What makes this analysis particularly remarkable is how it anticipates concepts that would later become more mainstream in theoretical physics. The universe as information rather than substance, non-locality at the quantum level, and the potential role of consciousness in the collapse of probability waves. These ideas find echoes in the Gateway analysis, though viewed through the pragmatic lens of potential intelligence applications rather than abstract theory. The document connects this holographic model directly to the phenomena intelligence agencies had been investigating through programs like Stargate and Grill Flame since the 1970s. Remote viewing, precognition, and other paranormal capabilities suddenly had a theoretical foundation that didn't require appeals to the supernatural. Instead, these abilities could be understood as natural consequences of consciousness, accessing the informational structure of the universal hologram. Most significant is how this model transforms our understanding of human potential. If consciousness can indeed resonate with the universal hologram through techniques like Hemi-Sync, then the acquisition of information would no longer be bound by the conventional limitations of physical senses. A properly trained consciousness might access information across vast distances, peer into secured facilities, or even glimpse events across the boundaries of time itself. Capabilities of obvious interest to intelligence services, but with profound implications for humanity's understanding of itself. The document proposes that when human consciousness achieves the right state of resonance through acoustic technologies like those developed at the Monroe Institute, it can harmonize with specific frequencies within the universal hologram. This resonance allows consciousness to perceive beyond the filters that normally constrain our awareness to immediate sensory data, opening access to the vastly larger field of information embedded in the holographic structure of reality itself. What emerges from the CIA's Gateway Process investigation is not merely a curious historical footnote, but a profound invitation to reimagine our place in existence. The research suggests consciousness isn't simply brain activity, but rather an intrinsic component of a holographic universe, a conclusion that remarkably bridges quantum physics with ancient wisdom traditions. Perhaps most striking is how these findings don't contradict established belief systems, Eastern or Western, but instead offer a scientific language for what mystics have intuited for millennia. The implications extend far beyond intelligence gathering into the realm of human potential itself. If consciousness can indeed transcend the time-space dimension as the research suggests, we stand at the threshold of an evolutionary leap in understanding. The Gateway Process. Documentation reminds us that the most revolutionary discoveries often reveal what has always been present, that the expanded awareness we seek has always existed within us, awaiting only the right framework of perception to become accessible. In this sense, the CIA inadvertently rediscovered what the ancients knew. The universe and consciousness are not separate realities, but reflections of the same fundamental truth.